Well, hello there. Guess it's time for another film. Hello, boys and girls. Bit of a rush job today. I am in between calls and meetings. I have not made a film in a while. You're probably wondering, like, hey, where's this MILNOR guy been? Trust me, I've been around. I'm not a YouTuber. This is not the main focus of my life, so sometimes I have other responsibilities. But let me tell you a story. So yesterday, I'm just minding my own business, and I'm driving down the road, and I look over next to me, and there is a woman that looks like she's old. She's very old, like maybe 115, and she's driving a Subaru, mid-90s fake hood scoop Subaru. Now, there's no right angle left on this car. Every corner has been mashed and bumped and dented into, like, the whole car looks like a soccer ball. But I look over at her and I'm like, wow, you are still out battling life. You're still out driving at that age. And it was so, I was like, good on you. Like, that is such a remarkable thing. And then I passed her on the right. Now, I didn't go Dukes of Hazzard on her. I didn't go off-road to get around her. I was on a 4-lane road, so fast lane, slow lane. She happened to be in the fast lane going very slow. I passed on the right. Apparently, in her circles, that is frowned upon, because she got up in my grill. And now what the driving equivalent of getting up in my grill is as soon as I go around her, she cuts in. There's no one else on the road, by the way. She cuts in right behind me and proceeds to tailgate me at a distance that I have not experienced in decades. Not to mention pointing at me and yelling and shaking back and forth in the driver's seat like this. And I was like, I might have to throw down with this person in a parking lot. Is this really happening to me? And what it did was it forced me to ponder my decision-making paradigm. How did I get here? And is this really happening to me? Now, forget about that whole story. I want to tell you another story. A couple of weeks ago, I was put in a position that, for the first time in a long time, made me question kind of everything about my professional life, which is a good life, by the way. Not complaining about anything. I have a great job. Everything is A-okay. But I was put in this position. I was forced to reanalyze everything about my professional life. And I was like, wow, I had not done this in a long time. I don't have often, I probably do have time to do that, but I don't for one reason or another. I think it's easier oftentimes to sort of run from our tough questions than it is to sit and actually look in the mirror and say, what is this? But I was put in this position, and I had to do a deep dive. Now, I was on a long road trip, and that meant hours behind the wheel with nothing else to do other than try to keep the van on the road and think and go deep, layer after layer after layer, into who am I? Who am I now? Who am I going to be in a year? Who am I going to be in 5 years? What do I believe? And what are those beliefs? How do those beliefs make me feel? And some of the stuff that came back, I was like, all right, I think I'm okay with that. And then other parts that came back, I was like, ooh, I need to make some changes here. And what I am about to embark on, which is the name of this film, is something that I have self-titled called Operation Improve. I have to get better at a multitude of creative skills. The truth is, I spent my whole adult life, for the most part, outside of a very short time as a fragrance model, which I don't recommend, I spent most of my adult life as a photographer. You know the drill. Looking through a little light tight box, framing up the world in squares and rectangles. A very weird pursuit as a full-time profession, but yet that's what I did for all those years. I think I'm an okay photographer now. I'm not by no means a great photographer now. Maybe I was never a great photographer. Photography to me is like running a marathon, doing a triathlon, whatever, playing a tennis tournament, you have to train. You don't just show up and go, "Help, I'm really good." If I went into the field now, if you took all my responsibilities away and said, "We want you to do a still photographic essay. Here's the topic. It's on detainment centers on the U.S.-Mexico border or the U.S.-Canada border, and that's what we want you to focus on for 6 months," there would be a trial period of days where I would just not be good enough to work on that project. I would have to work myself into shape. But here's the thing. I realized after being forced into this position that there was a lot I needed to improve on. So Operation Improve will encompass the next 6 months to 1 year of my life. My free time is no longer my free time. My free time is now a training time where every day, to some degree, I will be training myself on a variety of endeavors. And let's start with the first one. And there's 5 here, because that's what all the popular YouTube films do. They have like lists and everything. Number 1, graphic design. So I was on my road trip, as I mentioned before. And I was in Seattle, and I got a ride from someone who gave me a ride from outside of Seattle to downtown Seattle because I had a meeting. And on that drive, this person is well-versed in the publishing world and well-versed in the book design world. And the entire time on that drive, this person was referencing names, design styles, and books, of which I knew 0. So this person, let me just relive the conversation for you. "Hey, Milner, it's talking about graphic design. You know so-and-so." I go, "Nope, never heard of him." "Well, they did the book that's considered the sort of the Bible of this kind of design." And I'm like, "Never heard of it." "Well, what about this other book?" "Nope, don't know it." "How about this other designer?" "Never heard of him." So I'm like, "Yep, dumbass in the back seat, that's me." And I was like, I got out of the car and I didn't feel defeated. It was the polar opposite. I got out of the car and I was like, I am a complete dumbass. I have got to be better at this. So graphic design is the first category on my list in Operation Improve. I just finished this book called Just My Type, which is about typography. And I'm about to embark on typography workbook. This is a pretty amazing book that is basically talking about design. Now, I need to know not only graphic design, but page design, and typography is a big part of that. I know a teeny bit about this, but I am not even remotely skilled at the level that I need to be. So that is category 1. I have no excuses. I have to get better at this. I spend the bulk of my life around people who are obsessed with books and photography. It's been said that photography is a story best told in book form, and I'm a true believer in that. So I have to get better. I have to practice and improve. Number 2 is filmmaking, as evidenced by pretty much everything I've ever put on YouTube. I suck at filmmaking. And now, to my credit, I was sort of thrust into this at the beginning of COVID with no training and not really the kind of equipment I needed. And I somehow managed to wrangle some films together, which I'm continuing to do. So filmmaking to me is a language that I have just started learning how to speak. I'm actually loving filmmaking. I love the fact that it's so different from still photography and presents a myriad of challenges that I'm not prepared for. My goals with filmmaking are lofty, but what I also realized, and what this deep dive made me understand, is I'm never going to be Mr. Cinematic 8K, beautiful drone in the mountain filmmaker. I have no desire to be that person. The keys for me is story is number 1, script is number 2, and filmmaking is number 3. The filmmaking only lives to serve the story and the narrative and the script. That's it. So I don't think I'm ever going to be that 4K 8 guy cinematic, FPV drone stuff where everyone's like, wow, this is like candy, and it's like a woman in a hammock in Bali. I've never been to Bali. I don't particularly want to go to Bali. And I'm going to be shooting here right in New Mexico because I love this place and I have an actual connection to it. Think about that. So filmmaking is number 2. I just downloaded on the suggestion of a friend DaVinci Resolve. I've been using Adobe Premiere. Blurb has a really amazing relationship with Adobe, and I use the Adobe suite on a daily basis, and so Premiere was sort of a natural step. A friend of mine said, hey, you should try DaVinci Resolve. It's quite a bit simpler. It's also a standalone program. It's less power intensive. I'm still working on antiquated equipment, so I've got some challenges there. But filmmaking is going to be a daily EDU experience for me. Number 3, copy editing and copywriting. I love to write. And enough people over the years, including my journalism instructors in college, and I found a document of mine that was edited by a journalism instructor that I'm going to share on another film, talk about tough love. Holy crap, I thought I'd written something really good. It kind of destroyed me, and I'm going to share that on another film. The point is that enough people over the decades have said to me, Milner, this writing thing that you do, you're kind of onto something. You have a style, right? Now, the style is a train wreck when it comes to grammar, spelling, and punctuation. That is where the improvement needs to come on my side. If you were to give me a news article and say, edit this for news copy, I wouldn't be able to do it now because my brain functions with the English language in such a different space than it ever has. And that space does not necessarily translate to news writing, filmmaking, or even the stuff that I'm doing for Blurb, where I have to write for the Blurb site, I have to write for the Blurb blog, those kind of things. I can't write in my style. I have to write in their style. So I have to get better at what I once knew, which is copy editing and copywriting. When I was in journalism, I was doing that all the time. Even writing captions has such a specific ring to it that if you deviate outside, it was a huge deal. So number 1 was graphic design. I have to get better. Number 2 is filmmaking. Number 3 is copy editing. Number 4, and this came from a meeting with a friend of mine who's a technologist who makes very interesting pieces of software that are basically unique. And I am going to prep for Web 3.0, which is I'm prepping for the arrival of Web 3.0 outside of social media. And I'm doing that by using Shifter Media, which is my site. For those of you who don't know, I have a site called shifter.media. And it's basically stagnant. The site, I post on it all the time, but I don't do any follow-up. I don't do any marketing. I don't send any newsletters. I don't sell anything. And I don't really care how many people read it or do it or look at it because I just do it because I love it. And I've been blogging since 2002. I was under a different site back in 2002, but that site eventually turned into Shifter, and here we are today. Shifter, in great part, is what people told me not to do, and that's why I did it. But my technologist friend sat down with me and out of the blue says, hey, do you mind if we look at your website? And I said, why? And he was like, I just want to take a look. So he went through my site in detail and said, why do I not see this? Why do you not have this? Why can't I do this? Why is that not here? Why is this not a hub? Why isn't everything about you online in the world tied to this site? And I was like, is this multiple choice? E. It's almost, answer number E. It's almost never the letter E. So I was like, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, other than the fact that as of now, I'm not selling anything. So why am I driving everybody to go somewhere where I'm not really trying to sell them on anything? So my point is, I have to decipher what this means. Now, Web 3.0 to me is a little bit like, I don't know. It's something we've all heard about. Did it arrive? Is it going to arrive? How do we know? What does it mean exactly? But the trend of Web 3.0 that I find intriguing is this idea that the power that creatives have given to these big organizations like social networks and tech companies, there is a transfer of power back to the individual. And you will have a hub online. And instead of you giving everything away to the major companies, they will conceivably be coming to you to get what you have. Now, I find that incredibly exciting because I've never been one of these people who fell prey to saying, well, this is how everybody's done it in the past and this is how we have to do it now. I don't believe that. Self-publishing was the thing that really cracked it for me way back in the day. 2007 I was approached by publishers to do a book on a body of work that I had done. And I was not a particularly savvy business person at the time, nor am I now, but at the time I had no knowledge of publishing whatsoever. And these publishers approached me to do a book, and just off the surface, in the first 10 seconds, I was like, this is a terrible deal. Why would I do this? This is one of the worst financial deals I've ever seen in my life. Why would I do that? And yet photographers I see on a daily basis are giving in and paying and buying into those exact deals today. So it's a weird scenario. But I was like, man, I'm not giving my power and my work to someone else who's not going to do it justice. I'm going to control it. I'm going to do it myself, and I'm going to self-publish. And that was like a marriage made in heaven. So the Web 3.0 thing to me, I need to prep. I need to better understand it. I need to prep for it. The last one is, and this is a bit nebulous here. Nebulous is a good word because I don't know what 0.5 is, but 0.5 is probably the most important thing on this list. And the fact that I can't describe it to you is entirely okay. There is an entity out there that I will form. I just don't know what that is yet. I don't know what it's called, and I don't know what it'll do. But it's out there, and it's building like a hurricane. It's the butterfly wings in West Africa right now that are starting to move that air and circulate. I can feel it. When I was a photographer, every 5 years or so, I completely changed my career. I changed my career, I changed my genre, I changed my style. It kept me fresh, it kept me alive, it kept me interested in photography. If I'd still been a news photographer now, after starting in like 1990, I'm not sure how happy or satisfied I would be. It's possible, but I doubt it, because that's not really the person that I am. I did editorial, I did commercial, I did weddings, I did portraits, I did all these different things, I did stock. So they all require different challenges and kept me going. Right now, I love the job that I'm in. It's very challenging. There's all kinds of new developments that I can't talk to you about or share with you quite yet, but I will as soon as I can if anyone is interested for whatever reason. Not like my life is some magical, mythical book that everyone wants to read, but there's some cool stuff happening. But in addition to that, I feel like there's something else brewing in a cool way. All of it is connected. It's all interconnected. The Yamaha TW200 and the Salsa Fargo tie and the new gimbal I'm getting for my iPhone and my ancient iPad and these typography books and the fact that I'm in New Mexico and I bought this other magazine a couple of days ago. I have not bought a magazine in years. Years. Impulse buy, checking out at the local like health food store, and I look down and you know the kind of magazine I'm talking about. It's like the Buddhist something, whatever, that's always at the checkout at the health food store. I've never bought one of those in my life. I bought it 100% based on the actual object. The trim size, the cover type, the paper type, and the design was absolutely off the charts. And I was like, that is something I want Blurb to be able to make. We should be able to print that and make that because I'm seeing this format and this trim size and this material combination all over the world. I see it more and more and more, and I want in on that. I actually thought it would be interesting to see what AG23 could look like in that format. That made me think about the next issue, what we're doing, when the timeline is, all of these other things. I know this film is a bit out of right field, and I'm going to recap these points right now. Operation Improve here at Shifter. Graphic design number 1, filmmaking 2, copy editing, copywriting 3, prep for Web 3.0 is 4, and 5 is a nebulous creative future that I cannot describe. But it's coming, people. It's out there. It's a reckoning. What was that, Val Kilmer in Tombstone? He's got a hole in the middle of him you just can't fill. I guess that's me. I guess I have a creative hole in the middle of me that currently is not being filled entirely, and I don't know how to fill it yet. But I find that incredibly exciting. So thanks for listening to this ramble, and I will be back with other films. I've got another interview coming up with Stuart Isaac that I'm going to release. I'm holding off because I need to show that format to someone else who reached out about working together with me, and that person is out of town right now, so I have to wait until he's back. I'm going to sit and then I'm going to release that film. I've got more Q&As coming. I've got a film about mood over perfection. I've got some notes on photography, some notes on layouts, which is going to be better now because I have a little better understanding of typography, and I think I'm going to do some specific things on that. I've got films on editing and sequencing coming up, and a few more ideas about doing projects, which I know is a popular film and something that I want to get back to on a personal level. So, I guess we'll be seeing each other around the Officers Club. I will see you next time.